Greetings. Okay, so I was supposed to make a video every week for the past month, and I have just been completely ratchet. But it has a lot to do with just a lot of different things that are going on in my family and with my personal life. And so that brought me to want to talk in this video about ancestors and our spiritual guides and our connection to life outside of what we see and what we know. So, I've had a lot of issues in my life in terms of having to process that. I wouldn't say I have a lot of issues in my life, but I've had a position where I've been challenged a lot. And in my challenges, I could have decided to either just be a victim and be angry and play the blame game, or I realized that my victory comes from being powerful and accepting and forgiving and moving forward. And being a Gemini, I mean, I'm very forgiving anyway, but in terms of what it means and when you're aligning with trying to be happy and let things go, it's important to be forgiving in a way that's not letting people get away with things, but it's making sure that you understand that all you have is your power of how you feel, your emotions, your intelligence, and that's what you can control. And what you can control is letting it go. And letting it go means forgiving. But I'm saying all that to say that when you have these different things in life that happen and you learn to either be a survivor or a victim, because I feel like every situation presents us to tell ourselves something more about ourselves every day. The challenges come and they're not just to make your life horrible, but to grow you, to show you, to reveal things to you that you need to know. And I think that some of us are naturally strong. Some of us are naturally passive aggressive. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It's identifying who you are so that you can grow in that. And so that also aligns with who are you? Where do you come from? Who helped mold who you were? And if you notice that sometimes you're born into families or you're born by parents and you don't necessarily agree with them, you don't really align with them, and you're wondering, well, what is this about? But I think that a big part of it is you're not just what you see. You're a part of a lineage, you're part of a bloodline, and you have ancestors that have come before you that have done many things, and there have been many people, especially based on the circumstances. I mean, going back to the 1900s, 1800s, they were slaves. And then after that, they were trying to get out and free themselves, and not only free themselves, physically, but and not only free themselves physically, but also free themselves emotionally and mentally. And so by doing that, we knew then by sticking together, relying on what we have within ourselves and building up what we knew we could do on our own would allow us to grow and be better. Then we have civil rights, and then all of our amazing leaders and anyone we can think of that was literally breaking barriers and opening up our minds is taken away from us, which I always feel was strategic. And then you have the aftermath of pain and hurt and fight, and now along with all of that, with this mental disorders that we've all been naturally given through bloodlines. And then when I say mental disorders, we're naturally depressed, we're naturally have anxiety, we naturally can become bipolar or have PTSD after everything our people have gone through from the past 400 years leading up to now. Come on. But above all, what was really taken from us was our history and who we were and where we came from, and that was all intentional. Why? Because who we are really isn't slavery. Who our families are and our bloodlines are isn't what happened in reaction to what was done to us. We are kings and queens that come from Africa, that come from this, are descendants of Africa. Even if we were in the Caribbeans or other areas, we are still descendants of Africans, and we have power. Having that connection to your ancestors and calling upon them and asking your spiritual guides to be in your life and reveal things to you will help us reconnect back to what we originally came from. Our originality and our beginning is not slavery. Our memories of what has happened and what we've overcome is not just slavery and not just the oppression that we deal with every day in America. There is a bigger world out there that they want us to ignore and not accept or connect to in order to stay on our knees and stay in a position of a lack of understanding, having emotional and mental problems, and being disconnected spiritually from your people. Remember, like I said, what we see in front of us, mom, dad, dad, cousin, grandparents, friends. That's great, but we are all a part of a connection to something greater and deeper and amazing. And without us connecting and calling upon that, we're never going to really live in our real true power. I have nothing against believing in God. I love God. But I also believe in my ancestors and their power of communicating with us and being connected to us and their ability to help us because they've already been here before. I believe in spiritual guides because they are, it's kind of like a soul contract. We're not bodies having a spiritual experience. We're spirits having a physical experience. So these spirits that we've come into this world with have already had conversations and connections and understandings beyond what we're dealing with in the real time. But what happens is you come into this world and you're bombarded with all the pain, the hurt, the hate, and the bad cycles, and then you end up feeling like that's what we are. That's what this experience is. Getting out of what's being done. When the truth is, you were sent here with a special purpose. Like I said in my last video, you have a special purpose, a special plan, specifically designed for your life that has been given only to you, for you, by you, and you living in that power will ignite so many great things, and it'll break so many cycles. And that's another thing. Understanding your ancestors and even calling on them, even if you don't know, because like I said, it's not abnormal that after we get to our great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, we don't have a real knowledge or understanding or connection to who they were, where they came from, what they were doing, or even, like I said, pre-slavery. Not a lot of people have that information. So even if you can go back to the 1818 and 1915, it doesn't matter. Like, you're still not going to know fully unless you're talking about somebody that was from your motherland, from your original place, who you come from, what you guys were doing, how you were living your lives, what kind of people were in your families. Did you have healers? Did you have, people who spread the good gospel, the good word? Did you have people who were creators that, made things out of nothing? Did you have people who were philosophers and they went around and they told all the great information, researchers, like just the power within us that is an innate power that we all have. Where did it come from? Who were these people? What was your tribe? And like I said, I think by connecting and calling on your ancestors and believing in your ancestors and your spiritual guides will lead you to this eventually. It won't happen overnight. But living in a way that is aware, that is conscious, that is acknowledging is the best way to get to another level and to ascend to something different than what's being presented to you. And that's what we have to understand, especially as minorities. A lot of what we're doing is not always what we think we should, not what we really should be doing, but is what we think we should be doing based on what has been revealed to us. But look what's been revealed to you. It hasn't really been your full history. It hasn't been who you really are. It has been a version of a truth that has been given in order to keep us in a place that doesn't work for us but helps them. So please, I guess my point of this video is to not just want to have life to be better and different and want to change, but call upon your ancestors. Believe in their power and everything that they did before you got here. And ancestors are not necessarily just your bloodline. I'm talking about anyone that fought for somebody that looked like you, did what you did, had to go through what you had to go through. That's your ancestor. Call on that power and believe it, because I'm telling you right now, I grew up in the church. I grew up Baptist, go to church, go Wednesday, go Saturday, go Sunday, do all these things. And I never felt connected to that. I never fully really felt a connection, a spiritual soul connection. But when I started to live in the power of my ancestors, call on them, create an altar, believe in the idea of a spiritual guide or spiritual guides and orishas and people who have been determined before you even got here to look over you and guide you and protect you, who all work with God. It's like God's not out of this equation. He's ordained all these things to happen. So it's like there is a higher power, but a higher power that's connected to so many things in so many ways. So it's like you have to really tap into what that means and how that reflects in your life, because that will give you the clarity that you need, the manifestation that you need, the creativity that you need. You come from people who made something out of nothing. There is nobody in this world that can say that they've really done what we've done on top of the oppressive cycles that we've gone through to this day, to still be able to come up like we do out of these ashes and rise. Are we People that have problems, of course. Do we struggle with a lot of things? Yes. But given the circumstances, what else would you expect? It's not about what we're doing to react to being mistreated as much as it's about what we're doing to get off of our knees and live in our power, so that when someone tries to mistreat us again, it will not happen. We can teach our children and the children around us how to be powerful within themselves and to not believe this narrative that's being sold about our emotional and mental states, and to not care about what people who mean nothing think of us and how they don't want to give us a seat at the table. Guess what? You can keep that table. We'll build a new one. That's the mentality that we have to start having in order to really get to where we were destined to be. I feel as though if you know you're special and you know you're amazing, if you don't know you're special and you don't know you're amazing, but somebody else does, how often have they been able to greatly and gravely live off of your back and benefit from your inability to know who you really are? Think about it. Whether it has been a friend, a man, a woman, somebody has seen something in you that you didn't see in yourself and use it to their greatest ability. And when you really finally could come to terms with that, you were blown away at what you were really capable of doing and how this person was trying to flip it around to benefit off of you. That's all that's been happening all this time. And to be able to continue to kill us and police us and mistreat us, because hey, that's another way to get rid of a threat. A person that is not a threat, that is not worth anything, that doesn't have anything to offer, is not going to always be a target. You're just not. So when you start thinking about what's happening around you, what's happening to your people, what has happened to your families, you should start to think about, what does that mean for me in terms of having a connection to something that's real and not being presented to me in today's society as if it's truth and fact. When we know facts are, you took us from our land. Facts are, you took us from our history. You ripped us apart from it. Facts are, you constantly try to manipulate our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. Those are the facts. So now that we know them, stop listening to that shit. Stop hearing these people out. Stop thinking that something's going to change if you just keep going to church and praying. It takes faith to have works, to have works, to have faith. Nothing's coming overnight and nothing's dropping out of the sky. It's taking the time to find out who you are and what you're connected to and how that is aligned with what you're supposed to be doing in today's society. Please, I ask that if you don't understand or agree with me, that you open your mind at the very least to the idea that people have done things before you that love you and they want you to win. And the only way to really connect to them is to believe in them, is to call on them just like you do God. The only way to really understand your protection and your power is to understand your spiritual guides and ask upon them what it is you need to know. Who do you need to be in order to succeed? I really believe in my heart that it is time for us as a people to rise up. And when I say rise up, I'm not even talking about against somebody else. I'm talking about rise up within ourselves. Rise up to the person that you know you are destined to be. And don't allow every situation and circumstance to deter you from what you know you're supposed to do. I am in a struggling situation with my own mother. I have not been one to really talk about my personal business, but I feel that it's imperative to share your testimonies. You know, my mom is going through a lot. She's a strong Black woman in America who did all she thought she could to be successful, to only end up dealing with a lot of mental and emotional and spiritual problems that weren't addressed while she was just trying to survive and provide. And now it is manifested in our family in a way that we never thought it would. And this is not just my mom, and it's not just what she's doing. It's a representation of what's happening to us as a people, specifically Black women who have to fight and keep their head up and do whatever they have to do, no matter what's happening to other people, or what, you know, is made to be the most important topic. Black women have to just keep moving no matter what. It's expected and it's required. But you don't understand how much when someone is just required to be strong so much that even in their weakest moments, they are unable to live and process what that means, which will ultimately run you to insanity. It'll run you to making irrational, bad decisions for yourself because you weren't allowed to keep yourself first or make decisions that made sense for your mental, spiritual, and emotional state. It was more about, how do we survive? How do we provide? How do I make sure that my children have what they need? That has been the narrative for a lot of people for a long time, but I'm not even going to say that's just race. That's just women, you know, but with Black women specifically being last on the totem pole of everything, finances, respect, honor, it is harder and it is running us in the ground a lot faster. And I ask that in order to understand what is happening, we have to get to the root and we have to understand where we come from. There was a time when women were the backbone, they were the equal, and they were not just the backbone, they were an equal to their man. They were as powerful as their man was, and we were kings and queens. And then something shifted where they took our men and they dismantled them, and we did all that we could to keep it together on top of what was happening to us. And that has been the narrative for us, and it hasn't stopped, and it is literally killing a lot of us and is bringing great turmoil on our families. So I say this to say that in order to break these cycles, break these generational curses, remember your power comes from those that have already done this, that have already made the choices that were bad or did the best that they could do and saw the shift in where we came from to here. That power they have, that knowledge they have will carry you not only through your hard situations, but to break those chains, break those cycles. It's important for us to focus on that. It's time to rise up. It's time to rise out of our own ashes. It's time to rise out of our own cycles. It's time to rise out of things that have been done to us and we just did what we had to do to make it. It's time to really take an assessment of our minds. Where is your mental state? There's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with being depressed. There's nothing wrong with being bipolar. There's nothing wrong with having anxiety. There's nothing wrong with all of those things that, being schizophrenic. You just need help. You need assistance. You need to be honest and you need to be real, because it's not for you to make other people feel comfortable about what you're going through. It's just not. It's for you to feel comfortable about who you are and what you're going through. And it's not always medicine that's an answer. Sometimes it's just counseling. Sometimes it's just a support group, someone or people that love you and hear you and they want to help you. It is time for us to do the work internally. And internally means mind, body, and spirit. And what I mean by that also, when in connection to our ancestors and our spiritual guides, they are a big part of our mind. They are a big part of our spirits. So the physical is, of course, now, what are you doing to eat healthy and exercise? But the mental and the spiritual is not always just what you see and what you think you're going through right now. You are a DNA and you are made up of many things. And it isn't just what you are dealing with right in front of you right now. So please call on your ancestors. Call on your spiritual guides. Have conversations in your families with each other about love and life and our mental states and our physical states. Are we taking care of ourselves? Are we eating healthy? That all stems from us just doing what we always had to do to survive, living in food deserts, not having access to things. These are not excuses or reasons, because we've had less and we've done more. You can have your own garden. We can create gardens together. We can make decisions to go the trip to the store once a week for each other and go other places. Who has the car? We can do this. We've done it before. And I ask that we call on ourselves, we call on our ancestors, and we do the work to start to really rise up and get out of these ashes that we have are personally kept ourselves in. Because what power does something have when you make it powerless? What power does something have when you realize the power within yourself? Nothing. So I ask in this video that you not only think about what I'm saying and not only think about your position and your purpose and your plan in your life, but your past in terms of your ancestors and what you come from. What is your lineage? What is it that you hear stories that people have healers in their families, people have people who knew how to read people, they could see spirits, they just had the power of understanding, discernment, they were fighters, they were resilient, people had creative ideas, we made something out of nothing. Tap into that as we go through this journey of breaking these cycles and building up ourselves and our families mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There is such great peace and loving and tranquility and love and tranquility that comes from something beyond what you know. We understand that when we're talking about God. We understand that when we're talking about church, the spirit. But have you ever experienced that when it wasn't a man on a podium or a woman telling you something you needed to know, but instead it was you feeling the spirit of your ancestors, the people that you've called upon, or them talking to you through your dreams and sharing with you or showing you what they have or what they want you to know or what they think you should do? Have you ever had an experience where everything didn't make sense, but this energy came in that made everything feel all right because they're there watching and guiding and they're expecting you to do what's right and to break these chains, break these cycles, and create new ones? Don't just break stuff. Don't just hate shit and break it up, but create and implement new. get back to what we were: entrepreneurs. We were creators. We were resilient. We are resilient. We are entrepreneurs. We are creative. And we can do anything we put our mind to. So I am going to leave by saying I love everyone out there that is seeking their own love. And I'm loving you until you can figure out that it's all about loving yourself. And I am praying and I am believing and I am manifesting that my people will go back to their roots, connect to what is real, and we will rise up again. I'm sending all the love and light, and I cannot wait till we talk again, and I promise it won't be that long again. But anyway, I ask you to like, share, comment, tell me what you think. Tell me some topics you think we should talk about. I'm really open. But above all, take care of yourself. Love yourself. Drink water. Drink a lot of water. Try to walk at least 30 minutes a day. And try to eat something healthy that you know is making you feel good inside, that is helping your insides and not just tearing you down. Sending all the love and all the light. I say.